quick question.
What's going on, everybody? American Football Network jumping in here. We got Med from Shots from the Sideline over here, co host with us over on the Podcast Boys Network. So make sure you subscribe to American Football Network, subscribe to Shots from the Sideline, check us out on Twitter, check him out on Facebook as well as the Podcast Boys Network. And gosh, there's a bunch of us. Go check out the Football Expert and Fun Football Podcast on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Think I got all of them.
Yeah, that was a you had to take a deep breath before that, huh?
I know, yeah, bunch of them to get to. Um,
And
yeah, bunch of
also
them to get to.
and also at the same time, I'll be honest, I'm kind of jealous of your intro now. I was like sitting there did a private. I'm like, man, his intro is better than mine. So
Yeah, it's nice. So yeah, Med's the one that made that intro video for me. So make sure you guys go check him out, subscribe to him. He's great with all that graphic editing stuff.
mhm.
And he's also a Bears fan. That's why we got him on today is we're talking about Justin Fields and particularly what do the Bears do with the number one pick. So we'll start. What what do you want them to do? Not what do you think, but what do you want them to do with the number one pick? So I guess basically, what would you do with it if you were in charge?
So for the last 3 months, it's been kind of crazy what's going on with this number one pick, Justin Fields. And should they go with Caleb Williams? And just basically it's been a ping pong back and forth. Originally, like I've told people, I've been 50-50 with the Justin Fields experiment that's been going on for the last 3 years. In all honesty, you look at what he's had the last 3 years. The first year, he didn't really have anyone. They had Allen Robinson, who was already ready to go out the door. Next year, he had Darnell Mooney as his number one target. And then last year, he finally was able to get a weapon in DJ Moore, and he seemed to be able to progress. Now, each year, you see him do a little bit better each time, but the one thing about him is that he's been fairly inconsistent, especially in clutch moments. There was 3 games where the Chicago Bears lost last year where they had a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and typically a turnover, which was usually with Justin Fields at the end, was the difference, and then us losing. Um, Now, at the beginning, I will say that I really wanted Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, who doesn't? He's being touted as a generational talent at the receiver position, which is a position of need for us. And to match him up with Cole Kmet on the inside, who's developed nicely, and of course DJ Moore, who just exceeded expectations in so many levels in my eyes. You have basically who is your number one receiver at that point? You got DJ Moore and then Marvin Harrison. But it's hard to ignore the rumors that you keep hearing. You got 3 teams right now that they're talking about with the Steelers, the Falcons, and the Patriots, all wanting to trade for Justin Fields and offering like a third round pick. It is what it is. And at first, when you start really talking about that, you sit there and you're like, okay, yeah, whatever, and everything like that. But at the same time, like they say, if there's so many rumors, there's got to be a little bit of truth to them. So
Yeah,
at that point, I think they're actually going to be trading them away.
yeah, I definitely see that. And I mean, if you get a third round pick for Justin Fields, obviously I'm pretty high on him in terms of talent. I think he's still extremely raw. And you mentioned the turnovers. He's got 38 fumbles in 40 games to
Hmm.
go along with. He also has let's see, where's his interceptions at on
Oh,
his
he's up
stats?
there.
He's also thrown 30 interceptions in 40. So he has 68. Now, he hasn't lost all 38 fumbles, but he's put the ball in harm's way 68 times in 40 games. I mean,
Exactly.
that's about 1.5 times a game that he's potentially turning the ball over for you, and that's I think part of me sees him as kind of like, obviously he's got more talent and physical traits than Baker Mayfield does, but you see
Mhm.
how Mayfield finally started to put all of it together this past year in Tampa, and I wonder if that's something that Justin Fields needs. He needs a new change of scenery, some new coaching, and just see if that's what clicks with him. And that's what the Panthers are trying to do with Bryce Young by bringing in the new head coach, is just to see if the new coaching can help him just put it all together and click. Now, if he does that, who knows? But I feel like a third round pick is really good for a guy who, even if you believe Fields has the talent, it doesn't seem that after 3 years the Bears are really going to be able to get it out of him. Um, because he hasn't. It's not like he's really just improved dramatically throughout his each 3 years. I mean, the only thing that's gotten a little bit better is his first year 7 touchdowns to 10 picks, second year 17 to 11, and this past year 16 to 9. So that got a little bit better, but I mean, his yards per attempt is staying about the same. His completion percentage has gotten better. First year was 58.9, last year 60.4, and then this year 61.4. So his completion percentage is getting a little bit better, but he still doesn't seem to really process and read defenses a whole lot. So I feel like if you can get a third round pick out of that, that isn't bad at all. And I was thinking of these possible trade scenarios for the Bears and Justin Fields. What if you take that third pick that you get for him, you pair it up with the ninth pick and throw in one or two more picks later on down the line, and you jump up to number two, and you end up getting Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. What would you think about that for the Bears?
I mean, that's a dream scenario. I mean, who
Yeah.
wouldn't want that? It, it, so the best way I could really say it is the Bears, drastically have improved in more than one area.
Hmm.
Whenever you bring up the Baker Mayfield situation, he landed in my opinion, a very favorable position as far as his attributes go. Baker has a tremendous arm. They like to throw it deep with a vertical passing game, and he had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on the outside. Who wouldn't want that? I mean, Mike Evans is probably going to be a future Hall of Famer. 10 straight
Yeah.
years of over 1,000 yards. But Justin Fields never had that. And also, he had Luke
Mm-mm.
Gentry as his offensive coordinator, Mr. Screen King himself. So when you use a screen pass, you use it to basically throw the defense off balance, but you can't throw it off balance if you're doing it 9 to 13 times a game like he did this past season.
Trust
Now,
me, I know that one as a Clemson fan. It's all our playbook has been the last 3 years.
screen, one more screen. We got him.
Yeah.
But that would be a dream scenario. If that was to actually happen, that'd be like amazing. But at the same time, that'd be one of those things where you're kind of giving up a lot more of your future to get the now.
Mhm.
And even though you would be getting two, in my opinion, generational players and Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison, which I mean, pair them up. I mean, that'd be like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, that
Yeah, for sure.
where you're going to be set for a while. Part of me, I would love to see that. Part of me does not want to see it. And the main reason why is because there's just so many holes right now that the Bears have.
Mhm.
Defense is actually starting to come around and everything like that. You still have some holes in the front line. You drafted Darnell White, Wright last year, and then you got Nate Mason at guard. You still need a center. You still need a right guard, and running back. We're going to be losing Dante Foreman, and I believe Herbert might be a free agent. I haven't 100% checked up on that. I haven't got to the Bears free agent list yet, but there's still a lot more need. And me personally, I can see the Bears trading away Justin Fields, and if they do, I think that it will probably be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mhm.
It just seems like he would really fit there. The Falcons are a close second because Justin Fields from Atlanta, and if I was the Bears, I would actually stay PAT, and if I was Ryan Poles, I would actually trade down one spot. Let Caleb Williams go to Washington. They could have the next era of RG3. I'm actually bigger on Jaden Daniels than Caleb Williams right now.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I think personally Daniels is definitely over Drake May. I think Drake May is a guy who he's gonna have to be surrounded by some pretty elite guys. I think he's a lot like what you talked about with Baker Mayfield's system down there in
Mhm.
Tampa Bay. I think he's more of a system guy. I could see him doing really good in a play. Obviously, they're not going to draft him, but a place like San Francisco, when you got all those weapons around you, I don't think Mays is as elite as people make him out to be. I think he'd be my third quarterback. But I like Daniels. I don't know who I would put higher though, Daniels or Williams. I feel like physically Williams is better. I feel like mentally Daniels is better. Um, I There's definitely been some signs that point to the fact that Caleb Williams might not be as coachable as a guy like Jaden Daniels is.
And that's
Which,
actually what I've heard.
yep, and there could be some, potential toxic traits for the locker room with Caleb Williams that you aren't going to have with Jaden Daniels. I mean, even just to talk before the season this past year, that I believe it was his dad said something about if he doesn't want to play for the team that's number one, he'll just come back to college again now that they're making
Mhm.
NIL money. Just stuff like that, where a lot of people would be thankful to even be considered the number one overall pick from anybody. Um, he just kind of seems like he thinks he's more superior. And then with the point with Williams and Harrison, I I personally wouldn't do that either if I was the GM. I was just curious on your thoughts. We saw the Texans do it this past year with Will Anderson and with CJ
Stroud.
Stroud, but I think getting a quarterback and a wide receiver is a bad idea because you're going to have to pay both of them at basically the same time. You could franchise tag one and pay him the next year, but
Mhm.
I mean, Caleb Williams, if he turns out to what people are, if he turns out to the point where he's going to be getting a second contract anyways, he's going to be getting between 20 and 30 million a year. But maybe even more than that is I mean, the way it's looking right now with the way these quarterbacks just keep getting paid more and more and more. And you look at a guy like Marvin Harrison, he's probably going to be getting close to, if not over 20 million himself. And that's between two guys right there you're going to have to spend in one or two off seasons. So I wouldn't like that either. I think what the Texans did, I mean, Will Anderson ain't going to be getting 20 million a year. So I think that's why that move was smart. But I wouldn't go with that one either. But I think if you do trade back down to two, and you give Washington Caleb Williams, I think they're going to give you a pretty big. I think you can get a pretty big haul out of it. You might even be able to get. You might even be able to get a guy potentially. I doubt they send Terry McLaurin, but you may be able to get a guy like Jahan Dotson, who's going to be a solid number two receiver. In case at number nine you aren't able to get Harrison, and I think if you do that trade and you get back to second, give Washington them, and you're able to get Jahan Dotson out of it. I think at nine you take Rome Odunze. I think you've got an elite wide receiver core there. You got the two outside receivers with Moore and Odunze, and a very good slot receiver in Dotson. I think you'd be set up. You got your quarterback in Daniels because, like you said, the defense is starting to come along. I think that offense is the big problem for Chicago, and I think that if you can pull that right there, that'd really help them a lot.
So with what you say with Adunze, it's actually kind of interesting you say that because we talked a little bit before we got on here in the mock draft. I
Mhm.
actually had the Bears picking up Adunze in the
Really,
ninth pick. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy you would say that. So great minds think alike, right?
I know.
Um, so like you said with Dotson and everything, if the trade was actually happen where the Bears would drop down from first to second, it's not only the fact that you could get a player right now with with that package, you would also get a few more picks in the future. And right now,
Oh
they
yeah.
said the going rate with the number one pick is a lot different from last year. Last year, CJ Stroud was and Bryce Young were arguably the two guys that they were like, okay, well, get you can get a bag with this, but really and truthfully, we did because we got DJ Moore and a first round pick, a second and a
Mhm.
third, I believe. They're actually saying this year with this pick because it's the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. They're saying three first round picks,
Yeah.
a possible two and a possible three, not including any other players or anything like that. I don't think that Washington would part with Scary Terry. I mean, he's pretty much been their main offensive guy down there since he's been there. I love Terry McLaughlin too. But yeah, I would actually trade down one spot if I was Ryan Poles, get that bag because then you have extra collateral for the future. You
Hmm.
can either spend them on actual players or you can, you know, use them for trades and, you know, trade back and forth or whatever. But yeah, no, the person I originally, like I said before, I wanted Marvin Harrison, but you know, to get back to the main subject at hand, Justin Fields, I mean, where would you think he would best fit? I Even though I keep hearing the Steelers, I personally think he would do better down in Atlanta with Drake London, with Kyle Pitts if he ever shows up. You know, he was
Yeah.
supposed to be a generational player 3 years ago when he got drafted, and that offense. I mean, just plug and play with Justin Fields right there.
Hmm. Yeah, I think Atlanta would be the best spot of fit. I think that's where he'll perform the best at. I do agree with you though. I think the Steelers is where he's most likely to play next year. And I mean, you know how Vegas usually has a good read on this kind of stuff. And earlier this past week, when Trubisky was released and Mason Rudolph is set to become a free agent, not going to be re-signed, the Steelers jumped from like fourth on the betting odds up all the way up to the favorite, and it's like minus 145 or something like that. That Fields goes to Pittsburgh. But I do agree. I think the Falcons are the best fit for him. I think he's got some weapons around them. They have a solid defense. They just missed out on the playoffs this year. I think if you add him, you know, he could be something special. But here's the one thing that I would say, going back to what you wanted, trading down to number 2 and getting Jaden Daniels. Personally, I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to come in and be better than Justin Fields in his first year. And to me, they're very similar. They're very similar prospects coming in. I think they're very boomer bust. And I so personally, if you did that, traded down, I would say keep Justin Fields, get Marvin Harrison at 2, go get an offensive lineman or you know, another defensive lineman, something like that at number 9, and then you get your bag, you get all those picks. Next year, if Fields doesn't work out, you know, give him another chance, put some more, get another good system in place with him. And if it doesn't work, well, you'll have what, 3 first round picks next year. I'm sure you can go get a good quarterback next year if that doesn't work out.
Yeah, and I mean that's really the main one that I actually thought about the most was when by being able to actually do it that way, you do actually see what Justin Fields can do with more than just
Hmm.
really one weapon. And also a lot of people don't really realize, but you know, it wasn't big news that Luke Gentry got fired and then comes in Shane Waldron and you saw what he was able to do for Geno Smith over in Seattle.
Yeah.
And before that, Geno was not the best quarterback. And I mean, when he played for the Jets, it was worse than what we're seeing now, or when we saw with Fields at the very beginning and even last year.
I mean,
So
Geno was about out of the league until those years in Seattle, and he went from being you know, borderline roster spot to now the dude was in the running for the MVP race a few years ago.
exactly. So
Like,
I
so
mean,
I think you keep Fields, put some more weapons around him. You got a offensive coordinator that has a head on his shoulders. And I think you can really do something if you get more around him. And if you don't do anything with him, then all right, now you know, all right, Fields isn't the guy. The only risk I see out of that though is if that were to happen, you know, you're not going to get anything for Fields.
and that's true too. I mean, at that point, we're in that little area where they're actually starting to wonder if they're going to use the 5th year option, kind of similar to what
Mhm.
they did with Mitchell Trubisky. Now, Mitchell Trubisky and Justin Fields, two completely different players,
Yeah.
and but to me, Justin Fields is by far a better quarterback. And a lot of times you get saddled with a bad offense coordinator, which is Luke Gentry. And
Hmm.
I forgot exactly where he went because he got hired. The Raiders. The Raiders actually picked him up. And so we're going to see what happens over there. And then I'll tell you this story. And with Shane, he has more of a vertical. I think the biggest problem that they really had with Justin Fields is that they were too conservative. And I know that there's a lot of people that say that Justin Fields can't read defenses or anything like that. Well, they weren't really trying. It
Yeah,
was basically a screen pass or a read pass option. That was basically the Bears' offense all year last year. And with Shane being there, who knows? Maybe it'll open up a little bit. Justin Fields has an arm. I mean, we saw it
he
when he played at
does. Yeah.
Ohio State. So uh, it's going to be interesting to see what Ryan Poles actually does do. Um, it I already like what he did with the defense. We did recently cut Eddie Jackson and Cody Whitehair recently, two big veterans in the Chicago Bears locker room. And who knows? Watch Eddie go to the Packers. It's going to happen. Same thing happened with Amos.
Probably
So,
so, yeah.
but
He'll come here for
Justin,
2 or 3 years and then fall off
yeah.
a cliff.
But a lot of people really as far as like Caleb Williams, if he was to actually be drafted number 1 overall, there's a stigma with the Bears and quarterbacks. You've heard it. You're a Packers
Mhm.
fan, so I know you know about it. Is
Yeah.
we ruin them.
Yeah.
So I mean it, and getting back to some of the comments and stuff, like you said with Dad, there was also a rumor saying that he wanted to have a piece of ownership of the team of whoever drafts him, and that's just something you don't really say coming into the
No, not in college before
no.
you've even played a snap in the NFL. I mean, if you're a guy like Patrick Mahomes at this point, sure, you can say you want a piece of ownership for what you've done, but before you've even been drafted, yeah, that's not a good look to go out saying that.
Yeah. So I mean, it really just depends on what Ryan Poles does. I know that personally, I would probably trade down one, give up Caleb Williams, grab a Dunze. We really do need extra help on the defensive line as far as another edge rusher goes. So if
Mhm.
if we were to actually go with Dunze, I'd be happy with that. But at the same time, if he's not there, I would like them to go ahead and get Latu from UCLA or Dallas Turner from Alabama.
Yeah, yeah, I think that either one of those scenarios right there would play out really good for the Bears. I think they would fill a lot of needs that way. It's going to be interesting though because they got this first round pick and Justin Fields potentially on the market.
Mhm.
I mean, we could sit here and go through scenarios all day long of what happens, and any one of them could be realistic. There's just a million possibilities for the Bears, especially with, like you said, this being the Caleb Williams draft instead of last year where you got Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. Not a whole lot of hype around either one of them. But you got Williams coming in. It's really been the first quarterback hype we've had for the first overall pick since Trevor Lawrence. Um,
That's
and
true.
with Trevor Lawrence, everybody knew Jacksonville wasn't trading down because they didn't have a quarterback. With the Bears, who knows? Because I mean, they've got a guy that they could stay with if they just drafted. So it'll be really interesting, really fun to track all the way up to um all the way up to the draft. But that's gonna wrap up today's video. Appreciate you hopping on here with me. Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you at.
All right. So my name is Med Smith. I am the host of Shots from the Sidelines. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube, Med STFS on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. In fact, I had a really spicy tweet about Caleb Williams yesterday, so which is still getting looked at. But yeah, just look me up if you ever want to talk or anything. I'll be more than happy to actually exchange verbiage with you.
Yeah, so go check him out. Go check out that tweet and read the comment section on that one for a little bit of entertainment
Yes.
if you wanna go down that rabbit hole. But yes, appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate having you on. Subscribe to American Football Network, the Podcast Boys Network, Shots from the Sideline, the Football Expert, and the Fun Football Podcast. Check them all out. We appreciate all you guys watching, and we will see you next.